This is the top of the range 2026 Chery Tiggo 9 Vanguard, and this one is the CSH, which stands for Chery Super Hybrid. Man, I honestly cannot keep up with the Chery Group's acronyms anymore because you've got CSH, SHS, and PHEV. So presumably when the Chery T2 plug-in hybrid makes its way into the South African market, that's going to be a what? The JSH? Fun fact, this is the most powerful plug-in hybrid that money can buy in South Africa today for less than R1 million. In fact, this is one of the most powerful plug-in hybrids available in South Africa, period, at any price point for that matter. Performance vehicles such as the AMG C63 SE Performance and the G90 BMW M5 produce in excess of 500 kilowatts, so the Tiggo 9 is virtually right up there in terms of power output. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about its practicality, its features. I'm going to take it on the road and tell you whether it actually feels like it's making 455 kilowatts, and then I'll tell you what it'll cost to run on a monthly basis. So without further ado, let's get straight into this review. Car Talks: Power, Precision, Performance. Today we are at Chery Volvo Fourways, who are part of the CMH group, to review the Chery Tiggo 9 plug-in hybrid. It looks like Photon has recently moved in as well, so this place has so many cool and quirky cars that we are yet to review. So do let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me review from them. Shout out to the team for making it happen, and if you are considering getting into the Chery brand specifically, then reach out to Patricia and Bongani. I'll leave their details in the description box below. Back to the reason that brings us here today, the Chery Tiggo 9. And because this one is a plug-in hybrid, I found it fitting that I conduct the review in the electric parking bay. It's even got a green turf to mark it off from normal use. So what do we have under the skin? Now, this T9 is powered by a 1.5-litre turbo petrol engine producing 115 kilowatts and 220 newton meters of torque. The engine is then assisted by 3 electric motors and a 34.4 kilowatt-hour battery, producing a total output of 455 kilowatts and 920 newton meters of torque. So as you can see, there's your tiny 1.5-litre engine, and then alongside of it is one of the 3 electric motors. The left fuel cap is where the electricity goes in, and the right fuel cap is for the petrol. Power is sent to all 4 wheels via a 3-speed dedicated hybrid transmission. It weighs 2.3 tons and will do the 0 to 100 km per hour sprint in about 5.7 seconds. But more on performance later. Moving on to practicality and features, you get 143 liters worth of boot capacity with all seats in place. To fold the third row of seats, you simply pull on this lever and then push the seat down manually. And once the third row of seats is folded flat, and depending on how you calculate capacity, you get 448 liters up to parcel shelf level, or a massive 819 liters all the way up to the ceiling of the vehicle, which is pretty impressive. This is by far the biggest boot out of all the cars I've reviewed within the Chery group. Comparatively, the Omoda C9 plug-in hybrid gets 660 liters worth of boot capacity. The tailgate is, of course, electric. Coming around to the rear cabin, you get a black leather bench that you can recline and manually move backwards and forwards to create more space. And as soon as you step into the cabin, it immediately exudes quality and gives you a feeling of opulence, which I suppose can get a bit confusing for the consumer, because the Chery brand is meant to be the least premium brand within the Chery group. But the Tiggo 9 feels right up there with the Omoda C9, and in some places can feel even more upmarket, because for instance, you get rear privacy blinds on the Tiggo 9, and I don't remember seeing that in the top of the range Omoda C9 plug-in hybrid that we tested last year. So in some ways, I think that the Chery group is beginning to make similar mistakes to the VW group, because a fully spec Touareg R line costs just as much as an Audi Q7. And they're essentially serving the exact same market nowadays, when in fact, VW is supposed to be the budget-friendly alternative. The people's car, as the name suggests. So it's one of those things that leaves the consumer thinking, what are you actually trying to achieve here? Because the lesser brand is just as premium as the premium brand. So there's definitely going to be an element of cannibalization. The Chery group has 6 automotive brands in South Africa currently. So they have Chery, Omoda, JQ, Jetor, iCar, and Lepus or Lepus, which is a concoction of leopard and leap. And while I have no doubt in my mind that the group is in South Africa for the long haul, but because of the cannibalization that we spoke about, I think we're going to see maybe 2 or 3 brands of the 6 really emerging and taking off, and then the others naturally falling away. And that is going to significantly depend on brand perception, dealer networks, and customer service, amongst other factors. But time will tell, so let's revisit this conversation in 5 years' time. You get a center armrest with 2 cup holders and ISOFIX anchor points to safely mount your child's seat. Speaking of safety, the Tiggo 9 gets a whopping 10 airbags, and although it hasn't been crash tested yet by Euro NCAP, its younger sibling, the Tiggo 7, gets a 5-star Euro NCAP rating. So the Tiggo 9 must be safer then, because it has even more safety aids. You've got 2 air vents that allow you to regulate the fan speed, but you cannot regulate the temperature because this only has dual zone climate control, which is all in front. You get 2 USB ports, and as always, I'm 1.78 meters tall or 5'10", and I'm quite comfortable in the rear cabin. And that is thanks to its 2.8 meter wheelbase. But for what it's worth, the Jetor T2 is going to be slightly better for carrying rear occupants. And that is because 7-seater vehicles are usually a little compromised in the middle row of seats because it has to compensate for that third row. So even in its rearmost position, the second row in the Tiggo 9 gets slightly less room than the Jetor T2, although I think it's still impressive. Coming around to the front cabin, this gets keyless entry, so the doors automatically unlock when you approach with the key fob. You get 6-way electrically adjustable black leather seats with memory function for the driver's seat. And your seat adjustment knobs are found on the door panel, which is very reminiscent of the CLA that we reviewed last week. In fact, I think there are many bits and pieces in this vehicle that will remind you of Mercedes-Benz, including the gear selector amongst others. The Tiggo 9 also caters for you being chauffeured around because you can adjust the front passenger seat from the rear. The Vanguard comes equipped with a 14-speaker Sony sound system, which means you get speakers on the driver's headrest for a more theatrical sound and enhanced privacy when you are on a phone call. Interestingly, on the South African Tiggo 9 Vanguard spec sheet, it says that this comes with artificial leather, whereas the Omoda C9 plug-in hybrid gets Napa leather as seen on its spec sheet, which in some ways may reflect the Chery Group's intention of wanting Omoda to be the more premium brand after all. The Tiggo 9 does get Napa leather in other markets in the world such as Australia and I think in the UK, but not the South African version. So if you want to debate about whether or not our version gets Napa leather, then let's take that same energy to Chery South Africa, because I'm not the one who wrote the spec sheet. I'm simply showing you what's on it. Storage space is always generous with the Chinese, so you get an okay sized cubby hole, a storage bin under the center console which is refrigerated, and that is such an underrated feature to have because it really comes in handy on those long road trips. More storage under the center console because the gear selector is mounted to the steering column and it's shift by wire anyway. A 12-volt socket and 2 USB ports up front. And while we're on the topic of the steering column, the steering wheel is electrically adjustable as well. The operating system is the same one that you get in the Jetor T1, T2, as well as the Omoda C7. So you get the same 15.6-inch touchscreen that comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And if you've watched my Jetor and Omoda reviews, then you'll know I'm not such a fan of these extra large screens, but I cannot fault them on functionality. And just like on the Jetor and Omoda, you get intelligent voice command in here as well. So once you say the "Hello Chery" prompt, you can command the system to perform various functions such as opening the sunroof. A large panoramic sunroof at that with black roof lining. You get a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster, which is slightly bigger than the 8.8-inch display in the Omoda C7 that we reviewed a few weeks ago. The display shows you all of the pertinent information in a clear and concise manner, such as your speed reading, tire pressure, and your range, amongst others. This also comes with a driver monitoring system that has a small camera inside and can detect when you're distracted or fatigued. It's kind of like your 5th grade class teacher or invigilator when you're writing an exam. Coming back to the seats, black is the only color that we can get for now, but can you imagine how sick this interior would look with the cognac seats that you get in the BMW X5? Nevertheless, these are heated, ventilated and massaging. And more notably, you get all of this functionality for the front and the outer rear passengers, which is not something you see very often, not even in the most upmarket German vehicles without ticking a few boxes. So to get all of this functionality for 4 occupants in a package that is less than R1 million is honestly the hallmark of this vehicle for me. Oh, and before I forget, you get 2 cup holders and a wireless charger up front. Honestly speaking, whenever I review a Chinese vehicle, I'm always looking around the bushes nearby for somebody to come out and say, "You're on candid camera," or "April Fools," because I simply cannot understand how much car we're getting at these prices. Have the Germans been taking us for a ride all along, or is it just too good to be true? Before we get to driving dynamics, I would like to welcome our 2 new paid channel members, Simon and Vuyogazi, since we launched the channel's membership program a week ago. So that makes 3 members in total, including myself. Now, if you're enjoying these videos, then please go ahead and smash the subscribe button and become a part of the family. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a single one of our epic reviews. Alrighty then, let's take her on the road and find out what this behemoth is like to drive. So, you are joining me from the inside of the newly launched Chery Tiggo 9 plug-in hybrid Vanguard, the top trim. And the first thing you'll notice is just how supple the ride quality is, and that is because the suspension in the rear is the multi-link setup. And those 20-inch wheels have a very high sidewall to better absorb road imperfections. While we're on the topic of the wheels, these look like they belong in a vehicle that's 3 times the price of this. You get chrome around the windows, and I'm not particularly a fan of chrome because I like my cars blacked out. So BMW Shadowline and Mercedes-Benz Night Package are more up my alley, but the chrome in the Tiggo 9 has been executed elegantly. It almost reminds me of the Maybach GLS. And now I'm not suggesting that the 2 vehicles are competing in the same segment, because that would just be fallacious, and anybody who knows anything about cars knows that. But what I am saying is that the design cues of the T9 suggest that it is worth more than its price tag. Now, this is an all-wheel drive vehicle, which means you have an entire catalog of drive modes.
Eco mode, normal mode, sport mode, snow mode, sand mode.
In terms of power output, Chery claims that this makes 455 kilowatts, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is a seriously quick vehicle. But whether it actually makes that is something we need to find out, because it certainly doesn't feel like it makes it. So if anybody has a dyno in Johannesburg, please email us, because as soon as I have this on test, the first thing I'm going to do is take it to a dyno shop so that I can know once and for all how much power it actually makes. There was quite a bit of traffic on this particular day, so I couldn't launch it from standstill, but I did get to accelerate from a rolling start and weave through traffic. Yeah, it is rapid for sure. This plug-in hybrid also comes with regenerative braking, which basically uses braking force to charge the battery, which is one of the many ways that assists the vehicle achieve a claimed range of 1,400 kilometers on a single tank and charge. And if you're just cruising around town, you may also drive in electric vehicle mode, which gives you up to 160 kilometers of electric range. But once you start to get up to freeway speeds of, say, 120 kilometers per hour, then it'll automatically switch to hybrid. So in summary, it appears that it doesn't allow you to drive it in EV mode at freeway speeds. Now, there's a South African publication, whom I shall not mention, that tested this vehicle's fuel claim by driving from Johannesburg to Cape Agulhas. Firstly, it took them 8 hours to drive from Johannesburg to Bloemfontein, and 3 days in totality to get to Cape Agulhas. And I think they achieved about 1,300 kilometers, but the feeling I got from watching that video was just frustration, because clearly they must have been driving at 60 km per hour, and no one anywhere in the world would drive at that speed from Johannesburg to Cape Town. So I do want to get this on test as soon as possible and do a road trip at normal South African freeway speeds to find out exactly what the real world consumption would look like. Moving right along, to give you an idea of this vehicle's proportions, the Tiggo 9 is longer and wider than both the Tiggo 8 and Omoda C9. And out of the bunch, The Tiggo 8 is the smallest and the C9 slots in between both of them in terms of size. That's just out of curiosity in case that information means anything to you. Oh, yeah, that is rock solid. The Tiggo 9 gets a 10-year, 1 million kilometer engine warranty for the first owner, a 7-year, 200,000 kilometer factory warranty, and a 7-year, 90,000 kilometer service plan, all included in the purchase price. Now, information online is still pretty thin in terms of color schemes of this vehicle, but I did ask the dealership to send me a list of colors from their system. And so this comes in black metallic, pearl white metallic, matte gray, and tech gray. And our unit is finished in tech gray. Other highlight features include lane departure prevention with blind spot monitoring, ambient lighting, head-up display, and a 540-degree HD camera to help you squeeze into those tight spaces. The Tiggo 9 is also equipped with LED daytime running lights within the main headlight unit, as well as on the front bumper. Moving on to pricing and cost of ownership, the Tiggo 9 comes in two models essentially. So you get a 2-liter turbo petrol ICE model, and then you get this, the plug-in hybrid model. And each of the models comes in two trims, namely the base Pinnacle, which is front-wheel driven, and the top of the range all-wheel drive Vanguard. So then that breaks out to 4 models in totality. The Pinnacle and the Vanguard of the ICE model both make the same 187 kilowatts and 390 Newton meters of torque. And the main difference between the two of them is basically spec and the fact that in the Vanguard you get 4-wheel drive. So you can essentially get into the Tiggo 9 from as low as 690,000 rands when you get the Pinnacle ICE variant, which drives the front wheels only. Things become a bit different when you get to the plug-in hybrid variants because the Pinnacle makes 280 kilowatts and 610 Newton meters of torque, while the Vanguard makes 455 kilowatts and 920 Newton meters. We're in the plug-in hybrid Vanguard today, which carries a 990,000 rand price tag. And on finance, the Vanguard will cost you 18,500 rands over 6 years at the current prime interest rate of 10.25% per annum. Insurance is risk profile dependent, and the cheapest quote I got was 3,300 rand. A full tank of petrol will cost you 1,400 rands at the current inland price of 95 octane for the 70-liter fuel tank. A full charge will cost you 130 rands at the current Johannesburg North price of electricity, which would then bring your total cost of ownership to 23,200 rands. There are some press cars where if you drive it once or twice when you have it on test, it's okay, it can go back home with no hard feelings, and the Tiggo 9 is not one of them. I have a suspicion that I'll have a really hard time letting go of it when I do eventually get it on test because it's such an exceptional piece of engineering. As usual, there'll always be those detractors in the comment section who will complain about the price, but truthfully, there's nothing you can buy in Germany at this price point with this level of specification, unless you're buying a used BMW X7 out of Motorplan with very high mileage. But do let me know in the comments what you're getting for around 1 million rands. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.